Hi, can you guys see my screen? Let's get the lesson started. Today we're going to be talking about polymorphism, and here is the lesson objectives. So today we will be briefly talking about what is polymorphism, the rules to using polymorphism, and something called overriding, overloading. We have touched on these very briefly before, but don't worry, we will be completely going over these today. And then I'll be doing some demo, and there, if we have time, we'll do the practice problems, okay? So to begin, what is polymorphism? Polymorphism comes from the word many forms. That's basically the definition of the word. And in Java, or in programming in general, it is used to reference using methods or attributes inherited from the superclass and modifying them. If you don't remember what superclass is the parent class that methods and attributes are inherited from, and subclass is the child class that methods and attributes are inherited to. So polymorphism is basically when subclasses take the methods and attributes that they inherited from the superclass and they change it in some way. Maybe they add some stuff to it, maybe they remove some stuff to it, maybe they just make a completely new stuff, except it just has the same name, same method name or same attribute name as the as that of the superclass. So that is basically what polymorphism means. It's changing something. Do you have any questions so far? I'm gonna assume that's a no. Well, why do we use polymorphism? We use polymorphism to perform a single action in different ways. What that means is that a method might have the same name in the superclass or multiple parent class, multiple child classes, but they are executed in different ways because even though they have the same name in the quote unquote blueprint, they have different ways that they function. It's great for reusing code. Sometimes that likewise, it is just how it is with super inheritance. Anytime you inherit something, you don't have to rewrite it, and that just makes everything a lot more easier, and a lot more busy, takes a lot more busy work off of your hands. And of course, we need it. Polymorphism needs inheritance to be executed. It's just something that is the way it is. You can't really change something if you don't or already have it like from like a parent class. You can change something if you without like inheritance, but that just be simply called changing something. It won't be called polymorphism. Let's take our eyes over here. We have a graphic, a visual, and this is basically what a simple illustration of inheritance. A class animal here would be the parent class, the superclass, and class dog and class cats. Dogs and cats are types of animals, right? So they inherit from the animal, and animals make sounds. So they inherit the make sound method. And however, dogs and cats, they make sound in different way. A dog barks like woof woof, and a cat meows like meow. And since they make different sounds, they make modifications to the original method of make sound. That is polymorphism. Now let's ignore the word override as of right now. We will get to that later, but ignore it for like maybe 10 more minutes and then we'll get to it. Any questions on anything so far? No? Okay, let's move on to the next slide. Here are some general rules about polymorphism. Polymorphism needs these rules to be executed. If you don't meet the requirements and you try to do something related to polymorphism, Java will probably throw an error at you, or the code does not execute the way that you want it to be. So first, there needs to be a method attribute in the superclass and subclass with the same name and data type. So if you want to change something, let's go back to the this graphic right here. we only use polymorphism when we want to change something. If we don't want to change something, we don't change it, and we don't edit it, we don't use polymorphism. So for example, dogs and cats, they make different sounds. However, they are both mammals. Dogs and cats are both mammals, right? I think dogs and cats are both mammals. If I'm wrong, please correct me. But for the purpose of this example, we are going to assume that dogs and cats are both mammals. And because they're both mammals, and oh, never mind, wait, that's not a good example. What is something, let's assume that all animals have a brain. All animals have a brain, and dogs and cats are animals, so they also have a brain. So in class animal, we will have a Boolean. So let's insert text box. So in class animal, we will have a Boolean brain equals true. And because dogs and cats are both animals, they both have brains. And so this Boolean brain is also equal to true for dogs and cats. However, because brain is true for both of these, and it's true for animal, there's nothing we really have to change about it. So if there's nothing we want to change about it, we won't try to redo this in the class dog and be like Boolean brain equals false, right? Because that's not something we want. That's not something we want. This, if we do this, that is polymorphism, and that is a correct way to do polymorphism, because we are changing the value of the attribute brain from true to false. But because it's not something we want to do, it doesn't really count as polymorphism. I'm not sure if I'm making sense. So for example, because we don't want, let me try saying it another way. Because we don't want to change the value of brain, we wouldn't have a Boolean brain in class dog, right? And because we don't have a Boolean brain in class dog, we can't change the value of it. And because we can't change the value of it because we don't have it, a requirement for polymorphism is not met. A second, polymorphism, you don't always have to use polymorphism, okay? You can use it, you don't have to use it. When I first learned Java, I thought polymorphism was something that you kind of had to do in all inheritance classes, or else the inheritance would have no use. That's not true. You can still use inheritance without using polymorphism. If you don't use polymorphism, your possibilities are very limited, but that is not like impossible to just use inheritance. Okay. That's just a simple rule. Number 3, if you want to add onto the superclass method, you can use the keyword super. We'll definitely talk more about this, and I'll demo how to use the word super, but we talked a little bit about it last class. I don't know if you remember, but super basically refers to something in the superclass. So for example, if we have a print method in superclass and we have a print method in subclass, this is a snippet from the subclass. So there is a method called print method in superclass, and there is a method called print method in the subclass, which extends the superclass, okay? Now in this subclass, there is a method called print method, and it changes the print method from the superclass, and that it has the same thing as super.print method, though this means it calls the print method in the superclass, and then system.out.println adds printed in subclass. It adds on this sentence to the print method in the superclass. So overriding is when a method or attribute in a subclass is different from that of a superclass. That is basically polymorphism, what we've been talking about so far, like for the entirety of this class. some basic vocabulary is the subclass's method overrides that of the superclass. Overrides that of the superclass means overrides the method of the superclass. Or attribute, I'm just using method because method change, polymorphism in method are more common than polymorphism in attributes. The superclass's method is overridden. Now this is overridden in the subclass. It is not overridden in the superclass. Does that make sense? Does that vocabulary so far make sense? Okay. Now let's talk about overloading. Now overloading is where there are multiple functions. With functions, I mean methods with the same name but different parameters. So they have the same name, but they have different parameters. And because they have different parameters, the computer will throw an error because they recognize this as two different things, even though they have the same name. We did a little example with this a couple classes ago. I can't remember which class it was, but we did do an example where I showed you what counts as different parameters. But let's review it a little bit right now. Different parameters means they can change the number of arguments. So it can go from 3 ints to 4 ints or 2 ints and 3 ints. That's different number of arguments. Remember, what's inside the parameter are called arguments. Or you can change the type of arguments. So for example, it can go from 2 int to 2 strings, or go from 2 int to 2 booleans. That's changing the number of arguments. Now, can you tell me if we have int, two methods that have the same name and they have the parameters are both 2 ints. However, the 2 ints refer to different ints. The ints and the integers in the parameter have different names. Would that cause Java to throw an error? The correct answer is yes. The correct answer is yes, because Java doesn't look inside the argument and see that the name is different, so they perceive it two different functions. They just look at the type of argument it is. Okay. If they see, even if one of the methods, for example, print multiply. Let's name the method multiply. If one of the method multiply, let's say there are two method multiplies and one has a parameter with arguments int x and y. The other multiply has the arguments of int a, int b. Even though the arguments are different, they have different names. Java still perceives it as 2 ints, and because both have 2 ints, that it throws an error. That is the problem when using overloading. Right, let's do the demo now. Put this to the side. Okay. Right, so demo, let's review inheritance a little because we didn't get to completely go over inheritance last time. And instead of vehicle and car, let's make a new class. Oops, it's a little bit slow. New Java class, let's do animal. What animal do you prefer? Do you prefer cat and dog, or maybe turtle and bunny? Is there a preference? No, okay, then I'm going to do cat and dog. You can follow along, you don't have to. Oops, you don't have to. Okay, there we go. Now let's keep testing. That's where we have the main. Okay, so let's do animal. So animals, they should have, let's make a method animal called make sound. So public void make sound. This system.out.println, the animal makes a sound. And says cat extends animal, and dog extends animal as well. I don't have to write out the method make sound in neither cat or dog class. I can directly call it. So for example, cat my cat equals new cat. Dog my dog equals new dog. And then we call my cat dot make sound, my dog dot make sound. And we run this. Wait for it. It's taking a while. Here we go. The animal makes a sound. It prints it out 2 times. However, let's make a constructor of cat. Or no, let's make it before we make it. Let's completely finish this exercise first. Okay. So let's do public void public Paul. So system.out.println the cat exists. Whereas dog, let's make public void ball system.out.print. The dog plays with the tennis ball. We can do that, and we can call like balls and ball and run that, and it would run like normal classes would do. Okay. However, if we try to do this, Java throws an error. You see? So we can see here that because the methods, the dog class has the method ball and the cat class has the method like ball. When we try to access the method of the other class, they do not work. Well, this is because both cat and dog are subclasses of the class animal. Neither cat is a subclass of dog, nor dog a subclass of cat, and so they cannot call the method from the other class. Does that make sense? You can only call methods from like the superclass. You cannot call methods from the other classes that are not the superclass, even if they're public, even if the modifier in front is public. There is a way to do that without inheritance, but that is it is quite complicated. We're not going to get into this class. But does that so far make sense? Okay, I'm gonna assume that's a yes. If that's a yes, let's work a little bit more with constructors. Or yeah, let's do constructors first, and then let's do another exercise. So after constructors, I will give you guys a break. So if you guys remember how to do constructors are just this. you have a modifier, public, private, default, or protected. Public, private, default, or protected, if you guys remember those. And then you have the name of the class along with parentheses. You can add parameters in the constructor, but the most basic constructor usually don't have any parentheses. And if you guys remember, usually we in the constructor, we usually just define values. For example, how old is the cat? How much does the cat weigh? What is the cat's favorite food? Those are things that we usually define in the constructor when we initialize a cat. However, we can also do something else. We can print something out in the constructor. And when that happens, give it a minute. It prints out the line, creates a task, even though all we've done is create a new cat. Why does that happen? Let's go through the steps one by one. The first, when we have cat, my cat equals new cat, this cat over here is the same constructor as this cat over here. So this is what is calling the constructor. You notice that even when we didn't have this constructor, the cat instance of the cat, the object cat was still created. That is because Java automatically creates a constructor for you if you don't have a constructor. However, when you make your own constructor takes priority over the constructor that Java gives you, and it prints something out. We can see with dog here, there is no dog constructor, which means that Java makes a default constructor, and that in that default constructor there is nothing, which is why it only prints creates a cat. It doesn't say creates a dog. What do you guys think will happen if I make an animal? Public animal. Sum that out. And then I run test. Wait for it, it's not finished running. That is what happens. Isn't it interesting? Why does that happen? Let's go over it. So first, Haley, you might remember this from our last class. I said that when an instance of a subclass is created, and Java doesn't go from down to up, it goes up to down. That's the hierarchy that Java usually does. And because cat is animal, it goes to animal first. And when in the process of creating cat, it first creates an animal. Okay, now this animal is actually my cat, like this my cat right here. But in the process, that's what Java does. It first executes the constructor of animal. Before, we didn't have a constructor for animal, so which means Java had a default constructor with nothing in it. But now we do have a constructor for animal, so Java first executes our constructor, which makes it print out, creates an animal, and then it goes to cat. And then it goes to cat, and it creates the cat, and it executes the cat constructor, which is creates a cat. And then Java was done with creating a cat. So it was done creating cat, it moves on to dog. Moves on to dog. Dog is an animal. Because it inherits from the animal class. So it first goes to animal, and it creates and it goes through executes this constructor. And in the process of executing this constructor, it prints out the line creates animal. Next, I go to the dog class. The dog class doesn't have a constructor, and we didn't call any of the methods or anything, so it doesn't print. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't print anything out, and that is just that. You have to understand that when there is something that is executed, like for example, when you make a constructor of the superclass, you have to be really careful what you put in the constructor, because Java first executes the superclass, then the subclass. Likewise, if we have, what is, okay, there is, let's make a new Java class called ragdoll cat. Ragdoll cat is a breed of cat, right? So if we have public ragdoll cat system.out.println create a ragdoll cat, and we do that, what do you think will happen? Creates a ragdoll cat. Oh wait, I forgot to extend, huh? I am smart. Cat. There we go. See, there we go, there we go. We have first creates an animal, and then creates a cat, and finally creates a ragdoll cat. You can see the hierarchy is animal, then cat, then ragdoll cat. So you see, even when we don't really do anything with it and we just initialize it, if there are things in the constructor, it will always execute something in the constructor. And if if we keep going, we keep making the hierarchy longer and longer, everything that comes before, every single superclass that comes before will have what's in its constructor executed. That's why you want to be extra careful what you put into the constructors and what you put basically into anything that can't be inherited, because sometimes something you might not meant to happen is happened because you accidentally put something else you were not supposed to in the constructor. Does that everything make sense? So why it starts from the top, why certain times like it creates a ragdoll cat is printed out, but for dog it doesn't print anything out. When we create a dog, it only creates an animal. This everything so far makes sense. Okay, I am going to assume that's a yes. So we just finished talking about constructors. Are there any questions on that? That can be a pretty confusing topic. I mean, even if you don't have any questions, I will talk about it one more time. When Java executes something, Java executes something that's a subclass, it first goes into the first superclass which, for example, currently the first superclass is animal. Then it goes down from animal to cat, then to ragdoll cat, which is why it first executes whatever's in the constructor of animal, then it executes in the constructor of cat, then it executes whatever is in the constructor of the last thing, ragdoll cat. However, if this isn't in the constructor anymore, let's comment this out of the constructor. Let's make this public animal. Let's do a parameter. If execute is true, then we okay. And now let's try running it again. You see, now it is gone. There is only create cat and creates a ragdoll cat. This is because when we initialize the most basic constructor, the one without any parameters. If there is not a constructor without any parameters, Java will make a default constructor for you, and it will automatically execute that. Because this one had this constructor of animal has a parameter which is Boolean, and we did not call this constructor, it will not print anything out. Okay, does that make sense so far? What do you guys think will happen if I change this to cat? My cat equals new ragdoll cat. Oops. the same thing happens. What do you think will happen if I change it to animal? Still the same thing happens. So we can see here that the first thing we cast it as does not affect really whether or not Java decides to go from the first superclass to the last subclass. It will do that regardless of what you cast it as. Java is just like that. It does whatever it wants. Does that make sense? Okay. Now let's do something easy. Now let's do. Okay. So we can see ragdoll cat only has a constructor in here, while cat has the method like pause. Let's try. Oh, what did I say? It's okay. The format doesn't matter. Let's do. Well, it doesn't matter. Okay, let's do my cat dot lick. Do you see how it has an error? That's because we cast it as animal, and animal is the class above cat. Now remember, we cannot, the superclass cannot call a subclass's method, only a subclass can call a superclass's method. So when we change this to ragdoll cat, voila, the problem is solved. I should probably comment this out. Let me just comment this out. Okay. Voila, the problem is solved. Just ignore that. The cat licks its paws. What do you guys think will happen if I do cat? The cat licks its paws. Right. So that a superclass cannot call a subclass method, but a subclass can call superclass's method, and a class can call itself its own method. So that's why cat can call lick balls, because cat and lick balls are in the same class. Like the cat constructor for cat and lick balls, the method lick balls are in the same class. That's why it can call that method. Any questions so far? I know this is a lot of information, like especially confusing information about inheritance to dump onto you, but I promise as long as you keep practicing and you keep doing these problems related to inheritance, you will quickly get the catch of it. It might sound like a lot of rules, a lot of like patterns you have to memorize, but as you keep doing it, it just slowly gets ingrained into your mind, ingrained into like your behavior, and you, after like maybe 10-20 practice problems, you can just like in the snap of fingers, you know, oh, this is what happens because this is what Java does. And so don't get freaked out by me dumping this much information on you, because I was also freaked out when I was dumped this much information onto the first time, but as I kept coding with inheritance, I kept doing practice problems, I slowly got the hang of it. So don't worry about that. It's okay, right? And there's also a recording. You can also come back to this recording at any time, and you can, if you're following along with me right now, you have the code that I just did. I hope you comment out your code instead of deleting, so you have like a history of everything. And you can also look at your code if you follow along with me as a review to see the patterns and what happens. And of course, when you're sure, when you're unsure of something, you can always just go to IDE and type it out and see what Java does. That, like, you know, real application is the most valuable teacher that there is. And anyways, that was my little pep talk, because I know you guys can be a little bit intimidated by this stuff. Let's continue. Okay, let's talk about super and this, because we don't have a lot of time. I don't know if we can get through all the problems. So let's talk about super and this. Okay, guys, remember super is referring to something in the superclass method, and this is something that refers to something in this class's method. We usually use this when it comes to parameters. We usually use super when we want to change something to the superclass method. So for example, what does a cat and dog both do? Okay, let's do public void move around. System.out.println the animal can move around. And when it comes to cat, public void did I demo override? I don't think I demo. Okay, that's I forgot to demo the most important part of this. It's okay. I'll demo this with that. Okay. So you see, my IDE automatically gives me super.move around, but let's not do this right now. What if we do system.out.println the cat walks quietly. And we have my cat changes to cat. My cat dot move around. And so instead of not make sound, not move around. Okay, those will start with M. Should be more careful. But anyways, instead of the animal moves around, it would say the cat walks quietly. That is overriding. Okay, if we completely like comment this out and then we run test, what do you think it will show up as? It will show up as the animal moves quietly. The animal can move around. However, because we override it, you don't have to have this. This is just something my IDE does to make sure the writer knows that it's overriding something. Not all IDEs do this. Some do, some don't. I don't think it really matters. So anyways, the super here refers to the move around in the animal class. So super means like the superclass, right? So this will basically call the move around method in the superclass. So let's run this and we can see, even though this is cat, it will print out the animal can move around. See, it prints out the animal can move around. However, if we add something to it, it will print out both of these things. So for example, it will print out the animal can move around and as well as the cat walks quietly. See, that's what happens. That is how you use super. Super is mostly used when you want to have when you want to override a superclass, but you don't want to completely change everything in it. So you take some part of it and you add stuff to it. That is not the only thing that you can do. For example, if animal has a int age equals 1, and you can also do super.age. Never mind. Wait, does that not work? 1 second. How do I? Oh, I forgot the public. Now it should be good, I think. Can I not do that? Okay, maybe I can't do that. I thought I could. Okay, anyways, ignore that. That is basically overriding and super. Now let's move on to this. Now this is usually used when there is a parameter So for example, we have public int, on to the next line so it looks more basic. Public int age, and then public cat int age. And this dot age equals age. Okay. This will make, so you see this thing highlighted in purple here. This dot age, so age and age over here, age over here, they have the same name. So how do we make sure the computer doesn't get confused? We use this dot age. We refer to that variable that is in this class, and this age over here would basically just be the age that we pass in as parameters. So for example, if we have a new cat 3 and we system dot out print my cat age, and print that out, it will probably print out 3. If we don't have anything, what do you think it will print out? It will print out 0 because right here it's age is 0. We didn't initialize it. We called it this constructor, which doesn't initialize age, instead of this constructor, which does initialize age. Because we didn't initialize age, it is automatic 0, and that's why it prints out 0. Okay. We have 5 minutes left of class. Do you guys have any questions? If not, if not, I can review a little bit of overloading. Let's do a little bit of overloading. Okay. Because overloading can be a pretty how do I say complicated topic. So this is one thing that have always tripped me up when I was learning about why do you think this compiles, even though they are the same? It's int string. It's just int string, the two variables. It's the same type. They have the same name. Why do you think Java does not throw an error when this happens? Well, because they are in different orders. I think it's quite obvious. This one's in int string, this one's string int. Because they're in different orders, Java perceives them as two completely different constructors, and hence it doesn't throw an error. When I have this, it throws an error because these are the two exact same constructors. They both have the same name and they both don't have parameters. That's why Java perceives them as exactly the same. Okay, I think we got through everything that I wanted to get through in this class. We have a couple minutes left. So I will quickly talk about the course in general. So today is the second to last class we will have. Next Wednesday will be the last class we have. And next Wednesday, I will do a holistic review of all this previous 17 lessons that we've done, including like primitive type we've done at the beginning of the course, and then for loops, while loops, arrays, and then classes, objects, and finally inheritance and polymorphism. If we do have extra time, I will go a little bit into like topics that you guys want to hear. So if you have like something Java specific or like just programming language specific that you especially want to hear, like make sure you let me know. I think you guys know my email. I told you guys my email in the first class. If you don't have my email or you didn't write it down, I will put it in the chat again. So if you have any questions or any like suggestions you want next class to be, please let me know. I will try my best to make it happen well in the limited 1 hour time we have. Okay, any questions? Ethan, if you don't have any questions, I will let you guys go a little bit early. Haley, do you have any questions? If not, you can go.